All right, guys, the Further North podcast is back with the specialists. Our draft and free agency specialist, Joel, is back. We have to jump on quickly because we've had a massive mid-season draft. Now, straight up, I'll apologise for the lack of audio quality. I'm down in Tasmania at the moment, obviously still churning our podcast for you guys, and we've only got AirPods right now, so I'll apologise for that off the bat, but we got bigger fish to fry. Joel is back here to tell us about our massive pickups in the mid-season draft. Joel, welcome back. How did you? Were you excited for the draft going in? Did it? Did we get what we wanted out of it? Do you reckon?
Thanks for having me back, Josh. Yeah, I think we got what we wanted out of it. Geordie Payne, obviously, we talked a bit about in the last one, and he's I think he was the best available, and I think he's adds something. He's a bit of a hard nut. Him and Colby are mates to an extent, obviously. There was a bit of a thing put out today about him helping recruit him across by saying he was, he's a bit angry is the way that he described him. And apparently we like that, which I like.
That's good.
So I'm happy to get Geordie. And then Teakle, which was a little bit surprising, but not overly in a few circumstances. So, yeah, it's a good one to have.
Yeah, I was actually really happy with the draft all up. I sort of agree with you, and obviously we'll dive in more in a second, but I think you're right, like getting the best available, sort of like how we talked about drafting in our national draft last year. You know, when you've got those high picks, you've sort of got to take the best talent available, and then once, if you can handpick some positions a bit more and then go for something more team need if those players you're after fall that low. And I think, obviously, the main position I think we all agree we need is backup for Larky, or help for Larky, sorry. And even though some fans still cringe at the sight of more midfielders, Geordie was the best available talent. The connection with Colby is there, but also we do need a bit of grunt in that midfield. And if he's an angry young man, an angsty teen, I think that might be the best thing for our midfield, because he looks like he tackles pretty hard. And yeah, likes to lay some people out. Wish he maybe was a little bit bigger, but we'll get into that. Let's talk about Geordie first then. There's a bit of debate about what position is best for him. I think he's, in his interview, was talked about playing off half back a lot last year. This year sort of has been like a half forward slash midfielder. Where do you think he's going to maybe play for North primarily? Because I think we do have a gap in like a tackling sort of midfielder and maybe like a small pressure forward role. What do you think he can bring to us the most, and where do you see him fitting in?
Well, I see him. Well, I mean, last year he won the best and fairest for Tassie in the Coates League. That was including a side with McKercher and Sanders, and they both went out to play the state games more than he did, obviously. But he was playing off the half-back line there. He's moved half-forward. He's actually kicking a lot of goals. So I imagine we're going to probably play him as that half-forward / mid, but he's a fairly versatile player. He'll be able to, I can see him getting up midfield minutes. I can see him definitely getting and then playing a bit higher. He's strong overhead. He tackles hard. We've really struggled with tackling inside 50, which I think he'll bring that edge to it. So overall, I think he's going to add something. I think he'll play by the end of the year is my gut feel. Then I think he'll add something to our list. He's a player that 14 out of the 16 clubs that had options to get a player, they all interviewed him. So it was a sought after player. I'm very, very happy to get him. I think he's going to tackle hard. I think he'll play off half forward and probably into the middle a little bit.
Yeah, cool. Do you think, because I would say like, a bit of grunt in the midfield and like a forward pocket or a small crumbing forward is what we need. We do have a plethora of half forwards. Do you think he adds, or what does he do differently maybe than the half forwards we've already got?
He's probably going to be a bit of a harder tackler. Like, I love watching Durs play, but Durs looks very lazy on defense still for me at the moment.
Yeah.
Same thing with I guess Stevenson. He doesn't really have that hard tackling aspect to him that you will see from a Geordie. So that's probably where I see him probably placing in front of those guys. Curtis is usually pretty good with his tackling, but they've had to play him fairly deep often. So, I think I genuinely think he'll be able to add something. I think he'll be different than our other half forwards. And I think he's also got that versatility to move through the middle and also the versatility to go back. So it's not bad to have that many strings to your bow. but like every game that he played in juniors this year, he's kicked goals. He kicked 3 goals, 3 goals, 4 goals in a couple of the games. So he's impacting on the scoreboard and getting a lot of the ball when he's around as well.
Yeah, is he more of like a crumbing sort of forward, or is he sort of a lead up and takes a mark and kicks a goal sort of guy? Do you know, or is he sort of better at ground level?
No, I think he does both pretty well. Like as I said, I don't view him as overly polished. Like, Colby, when you see him with the ball in hand, he hits targets really, lace out. Geordie's a bit more of a longer kick and a bit more of a, hits the pack hard. It almost reminds me of probably like almost early days Daniel Harris, Andrew Swallow, except he's
Daniel Harris, watch out.
Yeah. Oh, like he's that hard inside. He's not the most
I love Daniel
but
Harris.
he gets around it.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that sounds like something we could definitely use. And I think, with the options up there, I think we did have to go best available talent. Why do you think maybe we passed on, or was it Blight and Scaife, sort of the next couple as well? Like Blight was the key defender, right? And Scaife was a key forward from the West. How come you reckon we passed on 2 players like that and chose the midfielder over those 2?
I think key position forwards in these situations are always tricky to read. You get half a season essentially of looking at them. You can have some junior years, but you're generally looking for improvement over the years. If they've been good enough in previous years, you would take them. So you look for that improvement. It's often missed on key forwards, I find. Key defenders you can get a bit better with. Like I think Kalen is a good example of someone who can come through. He's one of the better examples. I don't think we're looking after a key back. I think we're looking for a key forward and we're looking for someone who could impact this year. And Scaife isn't going to impact this year. Scaife, you're arguably in it for probably 3-4 years for him, to be honest.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think, and obviously we'll get to Teakle soon, but like, I think it's better that maybe we went in a direction of key position player with experience that can actually impact, because you're right. Like, what's the point of getting a Jasper Scaife? Even though I did say I would like to pick him up, and he's an exciting sort of prospect from his highlights and maybe his physical attributes. But I think it's good we've gone with a bit more experience, because we need reinforcement for Larky now. We don't need reinforcement in a few years. We can go to the national draft where we're going to have multiple picks again, and maybe get a more talented key position player where you're more likely to find key position. I think the mid-season draft is definitely one where maybe midfielders would be better, or smaller players would be better to pick, because the talent isn't there maybe as much as the players in the national draft, and smaller guys can impact the game sooner rather than later. So I think it was sort of the right pick. I do like that he's a Tassie boy as well. We talked about this a little bit. And of course, I've got a soft spot for the Tasmanians, a North Launceston kid, which is actually very close to where I'm right now. I grew up around Launceston, and I think it's cool and that him and Colby were sort of mates and played together last year. Do you think that and their connection had a little bit to do with why we got him on board?
I think there's got to be an aspect of that, but I think he was also, like, for my mind, he was the best available in his age bracket, and he was a bit unlucky to miss out last year. They've switched his position this year, and he's absolutely flourished in the new position, and he was already doing well in the last position. So I think the mongrel probably helps out a bit, and I think there could be a bit of an element. You're right with keep Colby happy with bringing in one of his mates.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, what did you think? And here's the topic, right? This is the one going around social media. What did you think of his reaction? He got a lot of negative criticism online and in the group chats I'm a part of for his reaction. Now, just for my opinion on this, maybe before we go to you, I watched that video of him getting drafted, and I didn't for a second think that he looked unhappy at all to be drafted. He'd already come out and publicly stated he'd love to play for North, and it's just a young man overwhelmed with a bit of emotion, which he did clarify in the small interview they put out on the socials. But I was really shocked and sort of disheartened a little bit by the fans' reaction to that. I know we're a sensitive lot right now because North's pretty bad and that sort of stuff, but I don't know. I feel like there's a little bit too much negativity around the fan base, and I wasn't really happy with the response from some of the fans thinking he wasn't committed already because look how unhappy he looked to get drafted. What did you think about that sort of social media swell?
No, I completely agree. I mean, unfortunately for us, there's so much negativity around the club at the moment, and they're going to absolutely look over it 100 times and see the footage. But he already knew he was coming to us. Like he knew he was coming to North. He knew. He had already previously said that he was happy to come, and then since post interviews, he was just in a bit of shock. He said, which is, I mean, he's at the club. He's going to get in the door and start working hard and play along his mates. I think they make too much of these things often, so we'll see how we go with it. I think he's happy. I think he's going to, I mean, he knew he was coming. He's going to be with his mate and probably house with him now. So I think it'll all be good. I think it's too much. I don't think too much negativity around the fan base, but it's hard to blame him at the moment with the way the club is. But you take the wins when you can.
I agree with that. I mean, look, and I do understand that the negativity in general. I think the fans and people who like to express their opinions online maybe need to pick and choose their targets a little bit more about where you express your frustration for the club. Obviously, we had Sonia Hood receiving some abuse earlier in the year and needing to shut down her socials, which was pretty pathetic from a lot of people who decide to do that. And it's like, that's not the place to channel this frustration. And it's also, a kid who is getting a chance at an AFL club, which he's worked hard for, is also not the place to do that. So I would hope, look, I don't think most fans felt that way. A lot of fans and people I talk to just privately, we all seem pretty stoked for him. And I know the Facebook and Instagram comment sections can be a cesspool of negativity on a good day, but it's like, I don't know. I just think there's ways to vent. I'm frustrated too. As I get up and podcast twice a week consistently while we lose, and I try and bring as much positivity as I can, and while trying to be quite realistic and maybe put into perspective how I'm feeling, be a voice for the fans and everything like that. But yeah, if I did have a message to send to anyone out there's ways to show that you're frustrated, because I think it's important to show frustration, that the fans won't accept it, and it puts pressure on the club to get better. But I think people have to be a little bit more mature about where they direct that negativity to. And an 18-year-old kid who's getting his first chance, and our president, who has done a lot for the club and is a great figure for our club, is definitely not the place to direct that.
Couldn't agree any more with you on those points. Completely agree.
Anyway, swiftly moving on. Is there anything else really to talk about with Geordie? I think. Do you think he plays? How quickly do you think he could possibly come into the team or can get his shot?
Very good question. I don't think he'll play next week, but I think by the end of the year you might see him starting to push for a spot. Strangely, I think I was talking with a couple of people earlier about it with the midfield, that we're actually starting to, like, even though we've invested heavily, I think we're a bit thin on general stocks of them. Like in the VFL, Will Phillips is the only one playing as a midfielder for our senior list. And it's him, Lazaro, and I think you'll see Payne sort of enter a lot of that rotation / go forward. Might give Tommy Powell a bit of a chop in and out as well. So, I mean, I can see him coming in probably in a few weeks. I reckon 4 weeks. I'll call it 4 or 5 weeks. I reckon he'll be in the senior list.
Yeah, that'd be very exciting to see. And I think which player do you think he maybe jumps over the top of who's in the team now? Like, I think like a James Stevenson's an obvious one to point out, but he's been pretty good the last couple of weeks. Eddie Ford, we agree, should have a chance. Zerha, everyone's got their opinions on him. I think we all sort of think he might be out the door, but they're still going to be playing him. I wonder who he sort of takes a position from, or do we drop maybe I can see like a Lazaro who gets. Maybe comes on as a sub a lot, is maybe a fringe player for us. Maybe he takes over one of the midfielders instead of getting rid of one of the forwards. What do you sort of think?
Yeah, I think Lazaro is probably the obvious target that would end up getting replaced, because, I mean, Powell's been very good this year. LDU's staying in, obviously. George isn't coming out unless he's getting managed again, which is also a potential for him to move in that position. But Phillips will probably get a nod ahead of him there. I'd probably say Laz is more of the fringe one at the moment, and maybe Stevenson has been playing well the last couple of weeks, but probably a watch. Dersmer, I think, is probably due for a spell in the reserves again. So those kind of positions he could take, though. Cooper Harvey's probably also starting to push his case a little bit more again to come in as well. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, true. I haven't thought about Cooper for a while. Yeah, that is very interesting. What I mean, maybe as well, Geordie Payne can sort of be that forward midfielder that maybe you don't have to throw a Zerha or a Paul Curtis into the midfield. You can keep them up forward as well. Maybe that's a bit of their thinking as well, to not have to use half our forward line in the midfield when we need a shake-up.
Yeah, fair. And there's also, like, I mean, there's a lot of versatility that we're trying to obviously build with our club. You see, obviously, Zerha seems to be less favoured in the middle now. I think Paul Curtis is starting to see a lot more of that. But
Yeah.
Tom Powell actually spends a fair whack of time forward now, since probably about a few weeks ago, I reckon. So, you'll get a bit more time with him in the midfield potentially and have, those rotations open for options. Which,
Yeah,
I think
interesting.
there's a few good options there for him.
Interesting with Simpkin as well, because he'll come back and play that like forward midfield role. So, yeah, I mean, we're getting some options there, but as long as having options is good, as long as one of them is good enough to be a standout, I guess. So, look, time will tell, but look, really excited for him. Glad we've got a player with that sort of talent. And yeah, I don't know. I'll have as many Tassie lads on this roster because I've got a soft spot for him. So, yeah, good luck to him. And look, hopefully everyone can get behind him and support him because he definitely deserves it. I'm glad he's got his shot. And look, hopefully we found a player for years to come. Who knows? Maybe we finally hit on the mid-season draft. That would be.
Oh gosh.
I mean, yeah, breaking the awful
I still love
streak.
Kalen though. I've got
Yes,
a very
of
soft
course.
spot for Kalen.
Yeah, I think we can say he's successful. I think
Yeah.
If he would have been probably played every game if he didn't get injured. So I think we can call that one a success. I mean, look, is Jacob Edwards more of a disappointment than Callum Dawson is a success? I'd probably say so. But look, you got to give them praise when they hit. So who was the other? So we got Robert Hansen, Jacob Edwards. Who was the other guy we got?
There was a Charlie Ham, which he played for 6 months for us.
I don't even remember that name.
He didn't end up playing a game for our senior list at all. But who was the other one that we picked
was
up?
Lockie Hosey
Lockie Hosey was.
Yeah.
He was actually a really good pickup at the time, and I think they had a look at him again last mid-season. Not us specifically, but a few clubs did. And he was one that was an interesting prospect. But he was a good pickup at the time. He played a few games for us. I think he's probably close to the most played player for us I think he played 6 games roughly and ended up delisted. But
yeah, okay. Well, let's not go down this depressing rabbit hole, mate. We can just talk about Callum Dawson instead, because that's probably the only one we've hit on so far. Let's talk about Teakle then. I'm really excited for it's Brynn Teakle, right? Brynn, Brynn Teakle. I'm really, really excited for Teakle. This is someone that we both spoke about in the last off season as a delisted free agent to pick up, which definitely fits the mould. And after we've seen Callum Coleman-Jones go down, and obviously just not finding any backup for Larky and Sellers and Finbar, who might be a good player, but looks very raw and probably isn't getting an opportunity this year, I wouldn't think. As a ready-made player, can play forward, looks like he can take a grab at AFL level as well and kick a goal back up to Tristan Xerri. I don't think we could have asked for a more perfect player. If you were going to ask me who we can pick up in the mid-season draft, what archetype of player, I would have said, experienced body, more mature, and can take a mark up forward and kick a goal and chop out Xerri. So I think this is a perfect pick, and I'm really, really excited to see him play for us. What were your initial thoughts when we picked him up?
I thought it was actually a really brilliant pickup for us. I think it was, the right target. Like, he was very unlucky not to be on the list at the end of last year. Port Adelaide obviously brought in, Soldo and Sweet, so they ended up with a couple of new ruckmen. He trained with Collingwood, and I think he was a bit unlucky not to get on there. He went back to the Waffle, and he's just been absolutely dominating that league. We're talking about Sherry at the moment. We've had Larky and we've had Pink and we've had Biggie. Everyone backing him up in the ruck. Got good old Greenwood as well.
Yes. Yeah. Shout out Money Cone.
Yeah. We've seen everyone trying to back up, and this is, with CCJ out, Teakle is a like-for-like replacement, honestly. Hopefully he can have much more of an impact than CCJ did, but he's done everything at junior level, at Waffle level to get a spot. And I think he could honestly be playing in the West Coast game. I think he's that
Mhm.
ready-made. It would just be probably a replacement for Pink, to be honest, which is a bit sad to see the Pink duck if he went out. But my gut feel is Teakle's probably going to be taking that role.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. Do you think it's too far fetched to say that a mid-season pick will just play the very next game? Because my gut sort of tells me he sort of fits what we're after more than Pink's obviously a defender. I know he got drafted as a forward, but he's made his name more as a defender. And we're sort of like throwing him up forward. Sellers hasn't done it. CCJ, as much as I want to believe, just doesn't look like he's ever going to get there, and was really disappointing. Do you think it's realistically a plug and play option for us? Do you think he can impact, say, against the Eagles if he does get that chance?
I actually think he probably could. I mean, the system that he would play with, you'd have Larky, he'd be in early, but he's known AFL systems. He's a smart enough player. He's 25, 200, like size wise, it's not going to be an issue for him. I think he's someone that could impact early. You could play him deep, you could play him a bit higher, and then you'll chuck him out in the ruck with Cherry to give Cherry time off. It also does patch the need of our ruck because, as I said, like obviously with Cherry being there, the ones underneath Cherry at the moment are Hamish Free, who has not been setting the world on fire,
No.
is the way I'll put it.
Hey, tell that to his goal he kicked last week
it was
on the
an
run from
incredible
like the
goal.
boundary or something, wasn't it?
That was an incredible goal. I'll give him that. And then Taylor Goad is a few years off still. Like it would be a bad idea to put him into an AFL
Yeah.
side at the moment. So, Teakle, if Cherry got injured, Teakle's a viable replacement immediately. And I think Teakle will cover what CCJ did. And I think that's why they've got him. And I really like having him on our list. I think it's a really good pickup.
Yeah, I think we've done really well from this mid-season draft. I mean, it's good to see finally that, I guess we can say this maybe the last year or so. And not that the fans are the experts, but it's looking like the club and the fans are aligning with what we need a bit more, and that definitely makes us feel a little bit better. Like if we came out of that draft with like a mid and a half forward, I would have been pretty pissed off, to be honest, because
yeah.
It doesn't take any sort of genius. Someone could watch one AFL game and be like, North Melbourne need help for that big skinny guy up forward. So I'm glad that we've done what we've done. And I would really like to see him impact. I feel like he can make an impact before the end of the year. It's the physicality of him and the size. I mean, that's the thing where, as much as I liked the thought and the potential of a Jasper Scaife, Teakle's going to come in and be able to perform more immediately than a Scaife or everything would. And then, like I said, we can go back to the national draft at the end of the year and maybe get a more high potential key forward. But I'm really excited for Teakle. I don't know. This is one of those ones where my bones are telling me that we're gonna find somebody here. And I can promise everybody I didn't think that about Jacob Edwards. So if that's a good omen to go off, I don't know what is. But no, I'm very excited for him. I mean, was he 24? I think 202 centimeters would definitely be 100 kilo 25.
Plus. Yeah, 97 kilo, but like he's
97, yeah.
Still. But
yeah,
tall, he can take good marks, takes a couple of those pack marks. So it's nice to see. Crushes packs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one that the fans were definitely in a line on as well. When you look at the Geordie Payne comment section and the Teakle comment section, the Teakle one, everyone's actually pretty stoked with this pick. So it's good to see some North Melbourne fans aligning on what we need. But let's just hope he can actually clunk a couple of marks and kick a couple of goals, mate, because, geez, we would have been in, like, even the Bombers game or something like that. He could potentially kick a couple of 2-3 goals in a couple of games before the end of the year, just because of how we like to enter the ball into that 50, and I guess aerially is his strong suit. And who knows, maybe Larky picks up a little bit of form because there's not as much pressure on him, because at least Teakle can take another big body instead of having Radigalia just blanket him all day. Alira is chopping across him, and Zerk Thatcher's third man up trying to do what he does. So look, I hope he can bring like a good tactical dynamic to the side, because you're right, he is. Do you think he's an upgrade? Like, everyone's saying he's an upgrade on CCJ, but at the end of the day, CCJ has been on the list for a long time and Teakle hasn't. I know we think it is, and we don't like CCJ, and I would still like him to come good, but I think the boat has sailed on a little bit. Not that I want to be too negative about him, but do you think he's an upgrade, or is that just us hoping that not liking CCJ and hoping he can, he can be our saviour a little bit.
CCJ has got more runs at AFL level. He's kicked a lot more goals. He's had a lot more impact in previous games. Teakle, though, I wouldn't say upgrade. I think it's always just recency bias is the term I'll use. But Teakle will come in, fill a role, and be, like, as you said, the Daniel McStay type player. I think
yes.
Brynn Teakle is actually that kind of player. He'll create structure. Will hopefully stop sending Larky into the ruck, and he'll add to our list immediately when he comes on, and he'll be in the senior list within the next couple of weeks. He'll be in the seniors within a couple of weeks.
Yeah, fantastic. A couple more questions then. That's probably enough for the two guys. Have you got any more comments on the two guys we've drafted before we go to a couple of different questions?
No, I'm just very happy with Teakle. I think that was a shrewd pickup, right age, or the right size, age, and impact on the club. He's going to play for us, and it's a spot that we desperately need. And it gives us a bit more security behind Cherry as well, which also makes me happy.
No, absolutely, definitely feels our biggest hole. So looking at the online reaction, things like that, there was a lot of people upset that we didn't get a defender in. Now, my view on that is, I think, and we talked about this before, where, even though none of our key defensive stocks are elite, I think Chom can be that one day, even though the talk is from Clarko, he will go forward a little bit in the near future. There was a lot of discourse about not getting a defender, a lot of uproar about that. I don't think we need that with the sheer options we've got, especially with Logue coming back and Dawson coming back. I know they're probably not. Logue, I think, is a really good defender in the AFL. Dawson showed a lot, still has a lot to prove, consistency and ability to play on different types of forwards. But I think we've got a player there alongside Comben, and Core has been playing quite well. Do you think it's fair to criticise the club maybe as harshly as a lot of fans did for not getting a defender, or do you agree that it wasn't a position we need to cover right now?
Definitely bad call by anyone saying that we needed another key defender. By the end of the year, we'll have probably Logue, Kalen, and Chom might still be in that role. I'm not sure if they're moving forward by then, and Core. And hopefully by the end of next year, looking forward, it'll be Will Dawson, Logue, maybe Kalen, and maybe Core still. So, you've got
Biggie's in there as well.
Yeah. We'll see how big he goes by the end of the year, and same thing with Pink. But
I think
there's chances both of those guys don't make it to the list the year after. But that being said, we've got, Kalen, I really rate 1-on-1. Chom can mark it, which is nice, and so can Logue, and so can Will Dawson. So we've got people there that can cover those roles, in all honesty. But forward line, is where the real concern is for me. So I think Teakle's a much better, much smarter pickup than even taking a Blight that they sort of linked us to. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with that. I think, a lot of people had a lot of opinion to say about not picking up a defender, and I did try and chat to a couple of people and be like, I don't think that's the area of need as much, but I would hope that, some of these, people commenting are watching enough games to maybe see that the defense has actually been okay or much improved. Let's just say that in the last couple of months, and there are much bigger holes to fill. And I think we filled them, especially with Logue Goda coming back as well. I know he's not a key position player, but as a defensive option it is good. So we do have players coming back. Hardiman showed a lot as well. Archer's getting a little bit of consistency. So I actually think our defense, I don't think we need to recruit in our defense until we've got the option to get a proper, legit key defender. But I wouldn't be worrying about that unless someone goes down or the form doesn't pick up. I wouldn't really be worried about recruiting in that area for a little bit when you've got some short-term options in Core, Chom, and Logue, and some long-term options in Biggie and both Dawson. So, look, it's an interesting one, but just thought I'd ask you about that because, people seemed very opinionated. What a surprise. On the internet, people are incredibly opinionated and sometimes don't make a lot of sense.
No, definitely not. I said, key back, I'm actually vaguely happy with where we're at. And to see the improvement between that Hawthorn game, which is the worst structuring I've seen in our list just about ever, even to the Port Adelaide game where, they obviously beat us by a bit, but you watch that first half and watch when they're bringing the ball into the forward line. There was some really good, Chom was chopping off a lot. The one-on-one contests were winning a lot of. When they took their shots, like even with Todd Marshall, when he was taking his shots, they were at 50 meters or at 30 meters, and they were against the boundary line, which is structurally, if they're going to take shots, that's where you prefer them taking shots. But the Hawthorn game, which we've improved a lot since, it was all central corridor and it was all short kicks inside. So much happier. Like I say, like Teakle, I think's the right man for the situation for us.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, it sounds like a good draft overall, man. I think we're both pretty happy with that. And look, you didn't predict the Teakle one, so I'm pretty disappointed. I thought you'd have a flawless record once again. But hey, let's save your skills and knowledge for the national draft.
For the national one.
That's your specialty.
We're already watching a lot of that, so good times.
Look, we'll get to that later, mate. We're going to go on a massive run and we could go 13-0 for the rest of the year and maybe scrape into the finals if Teakle becomes prime Fraser Gehrig. So who knows?
Oh, gosh. I couldn't imagine the old... I mean, that being said, I didn't see that from Jake Waterman, but all of a sudden he's become prime Gehrig.
Yeah, true. Look, hey, who knows, mate? We can only hope and pray. And then when we come back against the Eagles over in the West next round, we can hide because it's going to be very scary because we actually have a bit of expectation. But look, expectation is our number one enemy of late. But hey, that's just where we're at. Look, we might end it there. We'll cut it off. Just a quick pod for you guys to get a bit of information about the two guys who picked up. We're really excited about it. Hopefully you guys are too. And I guess we'll get Joel back on end of the year when we're starting to talk about who we're going to take with the number one pick. So, look, thank you for listening again, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And thank you again, Joel, for your knowledge and your time.
No, thanks for having me, Josh. Much appreciated.